Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing one of those deep dives I love, all about personal budgeting.
Always a good topic, right?
You know it. So we took a close look at this episode of the Dollar Drive podcast, and they had this budgeting expert, Jake, as a guest.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him. He's got
Yeah.
some interesting ideas.
He does. Sarah, the podcast host, she's great at getting people to open up.
Totally.
Anyway, Jake was sharing this rule, and it really struck me because it makes budgeting, visual.
Interesting. See, that's what I think trips a lot of people up. It's like finances are just this abstract thing.
Exactly. But Jake, he kind of breaks it down,
Yeah, you got to start with the basics.
which he says is like really knowing your numbers, not just guessing.
It's all about that total income, right? And that doesn't just mean your 9 to 5 salary. Side hustles, returns on investments, all of it.
Everything. Gotcha. Okay, so once you've got that income locked in, then it's expense tracking time
And this is where a lot of people, they get a little, shall we say, intimidated.
because Jake, he's not messing around. He says track every penny.
Yep, even that daily coffee. Got to face those small expenses head on.
I got to be honest, it's a little scary at first. I had no idea how much those little things added up
Yeah.
to. I was totally underestimating.
Oh, for sure. It's easy to have a good idea about the rent or mortgage payments, the bills that come regularly, but it's the day-to-day stuff that really sneaks up on you.
Right. Makes total sense. So, okay, you're tracking everything diligently. What's next?
Well, then it gets interesting. This is where Jake talks about the power of categorizing everything.
Right. Putting those expenses into buckets. Needs, wants, and savings. Pretty standard, right? But why is it so important? I mean, I used to do that, and it didn't magically fix anything. What's Jake's reasoning?
Well, it's about being intentional with your money, right? Like, we all know we should spend less than we earn, but when you actually see those categories, laid out in front of you, it makes you really think twice.
It's kind of like holding yourself accountable before anyone else can, I guess.
That's a good way to put it. And when you can see, okay, I'm spending way too much on eating out, or wow, all those little impulse buys really add up, that's when you can start making changes.
So it's about awareness. Got it. But then how do you, practically apply that? Once you've got your spending all neatly organized, how do you actually decide how much goes to needs, how much to wants, how much to savings? That's the part I could never quite nail down.
Well, this is where Jake brings in that visual rule I mentioned.
Oh, right. The one that makes it less scary.
Exactly. He calls it the 50-30-20 rule. Basically, 50% of your after-tax income, that's the key. After-tax goes to needs, 30% to wants, and then 20% to savings and any debt you might have.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that. But honestly, I always thought it was, I don't know, a little too simple. Like, what if your needs actually take up way more than 50% of what you're bringing in? Or what if you're really trying to pay off debt quickly? Doesn't that need to be more than 20%?
You're right. And Jake, he emphasizes that it's really a guideline, not like a strict rule you have to follow to a T, those percentages. Totally adjustable. Your situation, your goals, that's what matters.
So it's more of a starting point than anything.
Yeah, think of it like a framework, to help you visualize those 3 main areas of spending.
Right. That makes way more sense. It's about progress, not perfection, like with most things, right?
100%. So let's say you're doing great, you're tracking those expenses, you've got your categories, maybe you're even feeling good about that 50-30-20 rule. But then life happens, right? Your car decides to fall apart or you get hit with some medical bills.
Those unexpected expenses, the worst.
They really can throw a wrench in things. So Jake talks a lot about being prepared for them.
How do you even begin to do that? It's not like you can predict when those things are going to pop up.
Well, Jake's a big believer in having a solid emergency fund,
Yeah, that makes sense. Like a safety net.
Exactly, so that when those unexpected things come up, you don't have to go into debt to cover them.
Smart. But how much should you actually have saved? Like, what's a good target?
He recommends having at least 3, ideally 6 months worth of living expenses saved up.
6 months. That's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds kind of intimidating, especially if you're just starting out. But the important thing is just to be consistent.
Like, even if it's just a little bit at a time, it all helps.
Exactly. Every dollar counts. And honestly, having that cushion, it's not just about the financial security, it's about peace of mind too.
Oh, absolutely. Not having to stress about every little thing that comes up. That's huge. So we're tracking expenses, we're getting organized, we're working on that emergency fund. Is there anything else that Jake recommends for people who are really serious about budgeting?
He talks about the importance of accountability, actually.
Oh, interesting. How so?
It's easy to, slip up or make excuses when you're the only one keeping tabs on your spending. But if you share those goals with someone, like a friend, family member, even a financial advisor, it's like having a built-in support system.
So like a budgeting buddy.
Exactly. And, there's tons of apps out there these days that do the same thing. You can track your progress, set reminders, even get little messages of encouragement. It's kind of cool, actually.
I love that. Technology to the rescue, as always. Well, this has been super insightful. Before we wrap up, any parting words of budgeting wisdom from Jake?
One thing I really appreciated about his whole approach,
Hmm.
he doesn't make budgeting seem like this restrictive thing. He's all about empowerment. It's not about deprivation. It's about making intentional choices with your money.
Choices that reflect what you actually care about.
Right.
Love that. This has been fantastic. Thanks so much for breaking it all down.
Anytime.
And to all of you listening, if you're feeling inspired to take control of your finances, remember, even small steps can make a big difference. Choose one thing, just one thing, from everything we talked about today and see how you can apply it in your own life. That's it for this deep dive, but keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.